When I was in art school, I had three themes that I wanted to work with. Seth Solar was one of them, which was intended to be my Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse. Animations with quick gags, animal characters, Tom and Jerry like. At this point, the story was never fleshed out. I just drew the characters and came up with quick little scenarios. And I was going to use this idea, throughout my entire time in school and just keep developing it and making new projects based on this theme. So at first, I had Seth Solar. He was actually a tiger. Wore a business suit, kind of like your everyday corporate guy, and then he just turned into this superhero, like a flying mode, a weapon mode. That was the idea I was going with. So at this time, I'm in school taking my classes, preparing for graduation. I actually shifted my thoughts and ideas to one of my other themes that I had, and kind of Seth Solar was still there, but it wasn't my main focus. So time passed. I was still drawing things. I was always actively watching animated films and movies, playing video games, collecting the comic books. I was very much into that whole entertainment medium. And of course some of the things that I watched and experienced, they influenced my creative process. Just to name a few, in particular for Seth Solar, definitely the James Bond movies. I was always very intrigued by, how they had the Spectre villains, like the big baddie and the henchmen. There's an anime called Cyborg 009. I always thought that was kind of cool because it was like a team of robots. They each had different powers, and they worked as a team, and it had a very cool look to it. On the video game side, definitely Mega Man. I feel like Mega Man has some of the best video game music out there. They really created some masterpieces with that, and I always kind of envision like the sound of Seth Solar as some of those Mega Man themes. Another show, Darkwing Duck, that was actually a real example of something that I was trying to create, but that had more humor. I wasn't really going for the humorous side of things. I wanted to be kind of just cool and action packed, not ridiculous humor and gags. That would have been the difference. And lastly, probably the Ninja Turtles. Just for the legacy and their popularity. Like I would study and see how they started, and then just what they become. And when they first started, it was all the way violent. They look nothing like how they look in the movies. The whole pizza thing. The evolution of it was kind of cool. I was like, wow, this idea just turned into something else, and that's not even how it started. So, with Seth Solar, I'm like, well, look, let me create this thing, and who knows what it can become. After going through the trials and tribulations of life, I was like, let me revisit this Seth Solar concept. At the very least, I'll make some type of, one shot, introduction project for what I'm trying to do. And fortunately, I had enough artwork and things that I've drawn in the past to be able to do something like that. So it all started from this demo reel that I made that was actually based on the Seth Solar concept. So I took that demo reel, which is basically just a whole bunch of quick action clips, and I took that and I began to formulate the basis of what the first issue would be. Another thing I want to point out is that I was always kind of torn between, do I want to make like a full on animation, or should I just make a comic book? I decided to go with the comic book route, because that seemed like the most doable, especially as if I'm working as one man, and it would give me an opportunity to really flesh out the story that I'm trying to tell. So I revisited that old demo reel that I made, and I just started putting things together. I was just using all the skills that I learned to properly flesh out this project. So I began drawing. After I finished the first issue, I was very happy about it, but there's a lot of anticipation and anxiety. I felt like I needed to show more. The first issue and all these ideas I have running through my head, like, I didn't even get to all that. So I was like, wait a minute. So at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell this entire saga from beginning to end. I wanted to hit those hot points, like, oh, but wait, you didn't even see this guy come through yet, or this part right here, and then, oh, but this is what happens to this character. Like, that's hard to tell in one issue, So I was determined to really tell this entire story. At the time, I had no idea about the details of the story, but I always knew the direction I wanted to go with it. And what's interesting is that's what made it fun, because as I'm creating, as I'm writing things, I'm getting new ideas I didn't have before. I might have to create a new character based on this new idea. It's like, oh, well, he wasn't there before. Now I got this cool character, So that was really fun. So this is how I make an issue. The very first thing I do is that I expand on the idea that I have. For example, all right, I want Seth Solar to battle the bad guy in this issue. It's going down. I have to expand on that idea. So throughout my day, in my head, I'm replaying this imaginary movie. I'm trying to imagine what this whole thing looks like. And this is what I'm thinking about. Hey Tony, what's on your mind? This movie that I'm trying to visualize in my brain. So that takes some time, so you got to sleep on it, or you may see something that might inspire an idea. You get an epiphany. And it works like that. So once I've kind of replayed this scene in my head over and over and over, and I kind of have a handle on it, that's when I begin to write things down. Very, very, very generally, just write things down. For each issue, I break it into 3 acts. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Next, I try to get more specific with what's actually happening. I keep replaying that same movie, but I'm looking at it and just narrowing it down, making it more detailed and more specific with like what is really, really happening. Like, for example, Seth Solar is chasing the bad guy, but then to be specific, I might be like, you know what? They're on a rooftop, and then the bad guy goes into an elevator. That's all part of the chase, but it just begins to formulate the better that I see the image. So once I really start to see the picture, I begin to write it down, and then, I start to, draw it out in some very, very rough thumbnails, like stick figure sketches, just to see what the form of it looks like. I'm pretty much, this is where I'm doing me. I think this is where my creative process is unique from other artists. You know, I make the thumbnails. I get a general idea of what's going on, and really just start to just keep building on it, building on it, building on it, building on it, building on it. Maybe I start to hear the characters talking at this time, like, oh yeah, I want him to say this line right here. It'd be cool if he said that. So that process just develops itself over time. With each issue, I generally shoot for 24 pages. So once I have, like a general rough script of what's happening in the issue, a couple thumbnails, what it might look like, maybe a little dialogue points here and there, we'll just call that the rough draft. I look over it. Marinate on it. And I look over it until the point where I feel confident enough to really start drawing it. So, the stick figures, they're not stick figures anymore. Now we're really going to start drawing these characters and these backgrounds, and, it's on. So at that point, I say, okay, I begin to collect all my references, get everything I need, make a note of some of the important points, or like, the spots I gotta really make sure I get right when I draw, and I just start drawing. I lay out the page, and put the pen to the paper, and just watch the magic happen. When all my sketching on the paper is complete, I get asked this question a lot. It's like, how'd you get into the computer? How do you get it made like that? How do you go from the paper to, the computer stage? Well, thanks to technology that we have, and it allows us to really do some amazing things with artwork. I use Photoshop when I work. So basically, the drawings on the paper, I just take a picture of it and I upload that into my computer. Basically, it's like scanning. You just scan the drawing. But I take a picture of it, have it as a file, and then I just open that file up on my computer in Photoshop. So from there, it becomes all digital. Now it's digital. All the work and all the color and the drawing is going to be on the computer. And that's pretty much the first thing I do. I'm redrawing what I drew on paper and pencil. Now I'm just redrawing that on the computer. I apply the colors, apply the text, and before you know it, things are looking real lovely, very colorful, very how I imagined it. And the issue was complete. And from this stage, it's ready for print. Send it off to the printer. They'll print it out for you. They take all your files, all your computer files, they'll print it out for you, and you have the book at the end. So how long does this whole thing take? How long does it take to make one comic book? Well, because I'm working, I'm doing everything. There's no team. It's me doing everything in the pipeline. One issue usually takes me about 3 months. And that's from the rough draft stage where I'm kind of replaying the movie, when I begin to write it down after I get the thought, from writing it down to the final computer work. About 3 months each issue. So this story centers around a peacekeeping organization called Central Command. Its leader is Commander Violet. She's very militant and she calls all the shots. Central Command is filled with a variety of different soldiers. The top soldier out the group is Seth Solar. On the flip side, there's an evil syndicate codenamed Tusk. Tusk. Terror under supreme knowledge. They want to take over the world. Their heavy hitter, the heavy hitter at Tusk, is a character named Jazz, who is Seth Solar's counterpart. Throughout the story, Central Command and Tusk battle each other for supremacy. Hyber is another character that appears later in the story. His role plays an important link between Seth Solar, Jazz, and the leader of Tusk, Artemis McStomp. This story is filled with action, drama, and a bunch of cool moments. This is the first of my original creations, and I look forward to bringing you many more. Enjoy, and thank you for watching The Making of Seth Solar.